loud and clear. My soul is welcome here. Thank you.
You know, we talked last week, so we're in week 5 of our book study, Learning to Trust Yourself by Tammy Keeves, and we talked last week about soul care, all right? And this is part of soul care, making time to come and be in places where you know that you feel welcomed, like down to your bones welcomed, right? That deep sense of belonging, it's one of our core values in inclusivity, right? That sense of belonging. So this week, we're looking at your intrepid spirit. Anybody feel like we need that intrepid spirit right now? Whew, it has been something. If I turned it on, that might help. So, Yom Kippur, it's aligned with Rosh Hashanah, and I talked about the days of awe, and Yom Kippur was just Thursday, and I wanted to just sort of close that piece because we've been talking about releasing the things that we sort of carry inside of ourselves that make us feel less than, that make us feel smaller. And on Yom Kippur, it's called the Day of Atonement, and yes, in more traditional, worlds, it means you have been bad and you need to make good. But I'm going to invite us to hold it instead of atoning for something, that it's about at-one-ment, that it's about making ourselves whole again. That it's about taking the parts of ourselves that we've sort of put off on the sides and saying, oh, wait a minute, come back in. Come back in to the heart, to the body, to the community, to the Sangha. Like, there's nothing about you that needs to sit in a corner staring at the wall. Everything, there's room for all of it. And so part of how we stand in that wholeness, this chapter, this section, is about the block being hopelessness and about the breakthrough being about self-empowerment. And can you feel how when we feel hopeless, we don't feel whole? We feel as if something is missing. We feel as if, I had a friend yesterday describe it as, I'm the donut with the hole, right? And so this piece about self-empowerment is really, really key, and it's so foundational to what we know and believe in unity. And I love what she says, you trust and empower yourself when you side with your own blazing potential. You have bold, transcendent powers, and it's time to stop forgetting who you are. All right? Can we say an amen to that? All right? And it ties in so beautifully with unity and how we hold our 12 powers and how we understand that when we access those 12 powers in a balanced, holistic way, that what it reveals as us is the Christ consciousness, the divinity of the I am that we are. And I love how Neil Donald Walsh says, life begins at the end of your comfort zone. That's actually where we are enlivened, where we get to experience an aliveness. Can it be uncomfortable? By its very nature, you're at the end of your comfort zone. So yes, it can feel uncomfortable. I want you to just look around at each other. Is this a place where we can be uncomfortable together? Right? Where we can be at the edge of our comfort zone and fall and make a mess, and we're going to look at each other and go, oh, honey, it's okay. Right? It's okay. Somebody apologized to me about something, and I was like, I don't even remember it. Right? So we get to make space for all of it. So the biggest piece that ties into this really, and I do believe this sums it up really well, I'm going to do this wrong, I'm going to make a mess, And those fears stop me from trying anything new in my life. Anybody ever feel like that? Right? I'm going to make a mess of it. It's too much. I don't know how to. Right? And sometimes it's just a paralysis of being. Anybody experience that? Where it's like you can't even articulate it, but you're just sort of frozen in the experience of what you're caught up in. And that is our fears stopping us. Our fears, and what do we know? Okay, this is always the test. A Course in Miracles has a different understanding of the opposite of fear, but what do we know in unity is the opposite of fear? That's A Course in Miracles, and I can roll with that, but what's the opposite of fear in unity? Faith. Faith is the opposite. Faith is the flip side of fear, right? So, because it's really about what do you have faith in? Are you having faith in the fact that everything is going to go wrong and I'm going to mess it up? Or do we have faith in the fact that I have these beautiful powers available and accessible to me? So, I love how she says this. Empowerment is a choice to love yourself while you face any challenge that holds you back from full expression. And why I love that, and I pulled this out, is because I feel, and I'm always speaking from my own experience here, that sometimes this idea of empowerment can sometimes feel as if I need to be strong and how much gentleness are we bringing to ourselves if that's our only understanding of empowerment? So I love that it's a choice of love to be empowered. And I would say that it's not just a choice of love to love myself. I would say it's a choice of love for me to love each of you and for me to love this messed up country that we live in right now and for me to love this planet, right? And this idea that helplessness is an electric fence around me, but it turns out that I can turn off the current at any time. Can you feel how that's like the definition of feeling empowered? Being able to notice, being conscious, awake, aware of what is alive within us. We never diminish our human experience, ever. We are allowed to feel what we feel. But we need to also remember that we have the power to turn the current off. So you may lack confidence, but you will never lack power. And remember how unity understands power is it's our capacity for self-mastery. It's our capacity to show up anchored in truth, right? So this tool that we have, one of the greatest spiritual tools ever available, ever. Honestly, affirmative prayer is the greatest gift to the planet. I really believe that. When we need to turn off that electrical current, we have this powerful mechanism that we can lean into, where we remind ourselves that God is. God is, yes? Right? God is. And therefore, I am. Because nothing is outside of God. Really breathe into that. If we can remember that, the electric current automatically goes away. And because I am that, it means that there's something I can do or be or live into in time and in space. And this is really the power of affirmative prayer because it's moving us. It takes our capacity to sit and be present with the knower that knows, with the centered understanding of our true nature. But it also gives us this avenue for showing up in the world in a new way. When you think about that, affirmative prayer is this powerful tool to help us move past the edge of our comfort zone. Our comfort zone is a limitation that our humanness has decided. Our comfort zone is what our fear has said, you're only capable of this and no more. Affirmative prayer opens us up to the infinite potential, to the divine idea that is available to each one of us as us. And what does that mean we can do and be in the world? And yeah, that precipice is like, whoa, but it's only our ego freaking out, right? Our ego does not understand. Our personality, which I love my personality, and I've said this before, right? You all may not, but I love my personality. Our personality doesn't understand transformation. It sees transformation as annihilation. And that's why the fence goes up, because I don't want to be annihilated. Now, in some ways, the ego isn't wrong, because think about all the change and transformation you've been through in your life. Are you the same person personality-wise? You're not. So there is something that's true about your ego going, oh, so we can be compassionate for that. But it doesn't mean we have to let that be the guiding light that we're living into. We get to hold ourselves in compassion, be empowered in that way. So the question that I sort of shifted a little bit up, because in her chapter, she says, so what can you do? And I'm like, as the divine I am, what can you do? Whew, basically anything. I mean, really think about that. As the divine I am, what can you do? If you actually allow that human sense of limits, I can only do X, I can only do Y. I've never been able to do A. What if we just allowed ourselves to truly inhabit the divinity that we are? And it's not about focusing on what we have done in the past or what we didn't do in the past. It's about focusing right now on, as the divinity, how can I show up for this planet? How do I show up for myself? How do I show up for my family? How do I show up for my community? How do I show up for this world? Because it's never too late to do what you can do. It's never too late. Really take that in. All the things that you might think have passed you by, it's never too late. In unity, we know that we always get to choose anew. In every moment, we have the opportunity to pivot, to make another choice. And if that doesn't feel doesn't feel like it's moving us forward, guess what? We get to make another choice. We don't have to lock ourselves in to the story, to the narrative that we have been telling ourselves. What if you went to bed every night reminding yourself that I am limitless potential? And what if you woke up every morning and reminded yourself, I am limitless potential? Just that simple practice, how would that transform how you move through your dreams? Anybody in here having bad dreams right now? Right? How would you move through your dreams if you knew that? How would you move through the day the following day? And all it takes is willingness. So you don't have to get it perfect. Oh, everybody take a breath. It's not about being perfect. It's about just being willing. Because that beautiful divine genius that you actually already are is always available, it is always accessible, and it is always in the present moment. It's not in the past. It's not in the future. So sociologists talk about how we orient certain ways. And most of us orient to the past. There are some of us that orient to the future. And what our spiritual practice about is orienting ourselves to the present. Because we just want to skip over it. Right? We just want to skip over it. So it's asking us to embrace that we're a divine human. We don't negate. We get to take whatever the pain is, whatever the hurt is, whatever the loss was, whatever the fear is. We don't dismiss it, but we meet that with the willingness to know the truth of who we are, of what it is that we can do and be from our divine identity. And I think this really sums it up, right? Empowerment is making our decisions from our strength instead of our pain. Who would you be if it wasn't your pain driving you forward? Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes the pain driving us forward is amazing because that's all we can do, and it makes us aware of something. Like, we don't beat ourselves up if the pain has been driving us. But what we want is for the vision to then pull us. We want there to be that which we are, the divine idea of our beingness that is allowing us to feel empowered so that we can make choices. Anybody in here been feeling helpless lately? I mean, it's rough out there right now, right? It's rough out there right now. So what we are practicing is so important. Like, it's so important because it's not just for us that we're doing it. We're practicing something that creates a human race consciousness that isn't about fear and lack and limitation. Everything that's happening in our country right now is about lack consciousness. It is about there's not enough, so these people can't have it anymore. There's not enough, so they're taking something from me. And it doesn't matter where you live on the political spectrum. We're all falling into lack consciousness. So we're being invited to hold something more, to hold something deeper, to hold something that is more empowering for everything, everyone. So it's really just about being willing to believe. And I tweaked it a little bit. I always tweak her stuff. You're all okay with that, right? I loved this. I will not abandon myself. I will walk through that brick wall and discover I am more real than my fears. Can we all say that together, please? Isn't that awesome? She had a lot more words in there. I just sort of pared it down. Because that is the electric fence, the brick wall, the sense of where we think our limitation is. And we're all being invited to just walk right on through it. Because on the other side of our limitation is the truth of who we are. It's our most authentic self. Not the self that we've wrapped up in a pretty little bow because, if I show that to the world, then people might not like me. People might not respond really well if I do this, if I am this. And I get it, but we're being invited to be brave. We're being invited to have courage. We're being invited to really trust our principles of truth, perhaps in a way that none of us have trusted them before. I mean, I consider myself like steeped in truth, and I am working it right now. I am aware that there is something else that I am being invited to understand, so I don't lose my center, so that I truly can see. And a big piece of that is knowing that, and I can do some of this, but it's clearly can be more, when I can look back on my life and I can look like Rosa's experience where something that seems to be so horrible and so just gut-wrenching to my understanding of my ability to move through the world. A fire comes along and wipes me out. Someone steals my car with everything I own in it, right? Yeah, I know, that was in college. I didn't own a lot, but it was everything I owned. in those moments, what comes on the other side of that is so much more. And I can see it. I can see the truth of that. That on the other side of what seemed to be so challenging, I grew in some way and discovered capacities I didn't know that I had. And I learned how to show up in the world in a completely different way. Would you believe that the first time I ever got on stage, I was shaking so hard that I was wearing a Ku Klux Klan outfit. It was a play. And we were the bad guys. But somebody was sick, and it was just a walk-on. I had no lines. All I had to do was walk on, stand there, and walk off. I was shaking so hard that my entire little white thing was just like wobbling up there. And I came off the stage and I said, never ask me to do anything like that ever again. Setting a limit, right? But talk about the limits we set for ourselves. I was on the edge of my comfort zone. And I did it, and then I retracted. Now, I like to think it's okay, contractions are natural. And the good news is that part of me that knew where my authenticity lied kept pulling me forward. And I kept listening so that I could move through that uncomfortableness into something more, something that I was called to be. So the practice of an inspired life is all about transcending limits. I mean, that's what it is. If you want to live an inspired life, then it is all about transcending the limits, because I want you to remember that most of them are self-imposed. The limits you placed on yourself, you may have been taught them, they may come from your family, they may come from your culture, or the origin, but at this point, right now, guess who's imposing them on you? You are. And I loved this little piece that she has, and it's if you've done the quantum living process with me, this is very much in alignment with the quantum living process, right? My body is elastic, my mind is elastic, my future is elastic, even my past is elastic, because I can change how I understand or interpret it. So we do not have to be held hostage to what happened in the past. We are continually being invited to understand how can we claim our empowerment, not our helplessness. So you got to let go. You got to let go of all those ideas. You got to let go of the story that feels so good, right? Feels so safe. Well, my mother, well, my father, well, that teacher, right? Whatever that narrative is, whatever it is, let go of it. Who would you be if you could fully show up as the divinity that you are? You'd be unstoppable. You'd be absolutely unstoppable. So, practices for this week, right? Where are you assuming you can't do something? Where's that assumption? Oh, I can't do that. Would you be willing to face this challenge with all the time you need? There's no rush. I love that, Karen Drucker. You only have to go as fast as the slowest part of you can go, right? And the belief you can do it. Where have you felt like you can't do something or didn't do something you should have? And what can you do right now? Where in your life are you resisting? Because that call, I say get on board or get dragged. Because it's gonna keep moving you, right? So where are you resisting something? And how can you practice self-compassion while showing up willing to move forward in a new way? Where can you show up for yourself as that is as uncomfortable as it might be? And then what is it that you can bring to the affirmative prayer process? And if you're not sure how to do that yourself, buy my book, number one. Number two, or actually, let's reverse that. Call a prayer chaplain. That's number one. See a prayer chaplain. Call me, right? Call each other. There's a lot of emeriti in this community. There's a lot of people in here who hold consciousness even if they're not officially a prayer chaplain. Read the book that helps you to understand it more deeply. How do I claim my divine identity? But don't leave one of the most powerful tools for transformation and growth and expansion just sitting on the table and not being used. So let's take all of this into a time of meditation. There was a lot there, yes? So we're going to breathe in. Breathe into whatever got maybe stirred up, whatever got activated. Somebody sent me something, and I'm sorry I don't remember who it is in this moment, but it was Kathleen O'D. It was from Rick Hansen, this idea that placing our hands on our heart calms and rests our entire system. So I'm going to just invite you, if you feel so inclined, to just put your hand on your heart and just take some breaths. And maybe there's some emotion there. And just welcoming yourself. The truth of who you are. There's nothing to hide in this moment. Just feeling the safety and security that is available. That we can be our own answered prayer in that way. That we can create a container that feels safe, that feels whole, that is large enough to carry and hold whatever it is that's arising in time and in space. And perhaps just envisioning that wall for yourself, your electric fence. What does that look like? Where is the limit of your understanding of yourself? And just noticing. There's nothing we need to do. Just being willing to notice, to acknowledge. And if you feel moved, you can move a little bit closer to it. There's some way that you want to open it up. Either by turning off the current or creating a gate or just, what if you just passed right through it? And let's rest here for a few minutes wherever we are in this process of welcoming our divine identity, the limitless potential that we truly are. Let's just spend a few minutes in the silence, resting as the I am. How good it is to just rest and be And so as you're wherever you are, knowing this process just continues to unfurl within all of us, what is it that you can bring forth in time and in space right now? As that divine human, what are you called to be? What are you called to do? What are you called to know, to anchor? And the willingness is to just remain open to that deep listening, allowing ourselves to attune with the truth that we are always more, never less, always more. And I invite you to just open your heart in gratitude. Gratitude for these teachings, gratitude for this community, gratitude for your own courage and willingness. This gratitude for this magnificent life. Gratitude beyond words. Knowing that this process continues to move through each of us, blessing us, and as a blessing. I am so grateful. And I invite you to know this with me by saying, and so it is. Amen. Ashe.